Militias as a growing danger?
Yeah, and it talked about the growth of militia movements, and that some folks associated with the militia movement, certainly not everybody, but some folks associated with the movement have been talking about attacking government officials, and that April 19th was a likely date that something like that would happen.
All right. Now, tell me, first of all, who Kenneth Stern is, and then we can talk about from whence came your interest and or your information in this movement, and then we'll talk about your feelings.
Sure. Well, my day job at least, is working at the American Jewish Committee, which is a defense agency and a national agency that's headquartered in New York City. We have chapters in the 32 states around the country, and it provides information about hate groups, about the pluralism, about democracy. We have a many-faceted agenda.
Now, are you a non-profit organization?
A non-profit organization.
Okay.
And my particular slice of it is looking at issues of anti-Semitism, extremism, hate groups, and so forth. My background is as a trial lawyer. I used to represent constitutional cases in state and federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, and I've been here since '89, dealing with issues of bigotry in general and hate groups in particular.
All right. Now, you're in the city of New York.
Yep.
Okay. You said that you are an attorney and you handled constitutional law cases in the past.
Yeah, one of my clients was named Dennis Banks, who's the founder of the American Indian Movement, and I represented him for a number of years, and a lot of other, impact litigation, criminal defense, and so forth.
Kind of a curious...
Before I decided I didn't want to wait to have the clients to bring me the interesting cases, I wanted to, write about interesting things that came to me and that I could, divine myself without having to worry about judges and so forth.
Okay. Now, Dennis Banks, we can kind of start with him. You mentioned he was one of your more famous clients, and I assume you defended his and or his group's actions.
Well, I represented him in a case where it was right after Wounded Knee, and he and some other American Indian Movement leadership had been stopped in actually Marlon Brando's motorhome when they were basically being hunted by the FBI, and it was the longest running criminal trial in U.S. history. The government went after him for 13 years until the case was finally ended after going to the Supreme Court and multiple dismissals for government misconduct and so forth. So that was my last book, called Loud Hawk, which I wrote about that. But
the obvious perhaps paradox is many would compare the government's harassment of malfeasance in carrying out the governmental duties regarding Dennis Banks as being similar to the Randy Weaver situation, as being similar to the Waco situation, and even though Dennis Banks is not going to qualify as, a saint, he wasn't a bad guy by any stretch. And do you see any simile?
In some sense, very much so. I mean, I have problems, as I document in the book, with some of what happened in the Weaver case and some of what happened in Waco, and some of that was very similar to what happened with Dennis Banks, with the government going basically beyond the rules of the game, as it were, and overstepping its bounds. The difference that I see, at least in terms of documenting the attitude towards those incidents in the militia movement, is rather than saying, well, this is what the government did wrong and this is why they did it wrong, and these are the reforms that we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again, things were taken out of context. Rather than talk about reforms and problems, it was made to seem as if the government was actually going after Randy Weaver and the folks at Waco as part of a larger plot to subdue and subject and imprison Americans. So obviously there could be things wrong with how the government acts. It's a question of whether you look at it with, from my point of view, a realistic perspective, or whether you see it as part of a large-scale conspiracy.
And wouldn't you say that many in the American Indian movement saw the government actions as part of a large-scale conspiracy?
Well,
to hold down and...
Depends what you mean by conspiracy. I mean, there's
I tell you what, we've got to take a break. Hold on, Kim.
Sure.
We'll be right back. We'll take calls, 1-800-TALK-290, 237-9959, The Stan Solomon Show. Talk to Solomon. One of the sponsors of the Stan Solomon Show is the largest firearms store in the state of Indiana. Their name is Bradis, B-R-A-D-I-S. Many of you have visited them or called them from all around the Midwest. Well, in March, in Indiana, March the 1st, there's something called an inventory tax. We punish merchants, whatever their product, for having inventory. And Bradis is among them. So they have decided they must liquidate well over $100,000 worth of quality firearms. Now listen to some of these values. New pump shotguns, 12 gauges, from $169. New 20-gauge shotguns from $69. Used military rifles from $49. They have new 9mm semi-automatic pistols from $89. They have shotgun barrels, if you need them for bird hunting or deer hunting. They start at just $39. Now, it's first come, first serve. They're at 6939 Kentucky Avenue, the southwest side of Indianapolis, 856-8880.
Does this scenario sound familiar to you? You file suit with an adversary, spend a lot of time in the courts, a lot of money on your attorney, and end up a little less than satisfied with the legal system. Did you know that our legal system provides another option that doesn't necessarily involve years of stress, the judiciary system, even attorneys? It's called the commercial lien process. Listen carefully. A commercial lien is a method for redress of grievances that is outside the court system. Up until recent developments by the North American Freedom Council, it was not an easy task to collect on a commercial lien. But if you can back up your grievance with factual documentation, you can see results in as little as 30 days. 30 days to gain lawful judgment over an adversary through a commercial lien in compliance with commercial law and secured by all property, both tangible and intangible, real and personal, that is owed by the lien debtor to the fullest extent allowable by law. For more information on the commercial lien process, call the NAFC at 812-897-2641. That's 812-897-2641 for the NAFC.
The following money-making opportunity message could change your life. In the next 60 days, you could be making more money than you ever dreamed possible. This is Kevin Trudeau, founder of the American Memory Institute and author of the best-selling program Mega Memory. My television infomercials have produced millions of dollars in sales over the last few years. Now you can join me in the launching of my new multi-level marketing business, the Trudeau Marketing Group. Financial independence could be yours by joining me in this ground floor opportunity. For the first time ever in history, I'll be using the power of television infomercials and radio advertising that could put you in a position to be making thousands of dollars each and every month. You become successful because I'll make you successful.
To find out how you can be successful, call 1-800-844-STAN. 1-800-844-STAN.
Bring it on! Monday through Friday, the Stan Solomon Show from 7 to 10. We appreciate your listening, your involvement. Our guest is Kenneth Stern. He is with the American Jewish Committee. He is a researcher. He's an attorney. He has handled some cases where he was kind of on the other side of the issue we have this evening of American citizens feeling that governments might be acting against their constitutionally guaranteed rights, against their best interest, and acting other than in the system, if you will, other than in the standard operating procedures that are available to all of us in this wonderful country. Now, Ken, let me ask you, and I have no idea, so I'm just kind of stabbing in the dark here. There was I think it was in New York, but I may be wrong. It may have been in San Francisco, a time when members of the homosexual community reacted to police activity, and there were some, I don't know what you would call them, civil events, civil disobedience events. And that was maybe back 12, 15 years ago, called the Stonewall something or another.
No, that was based in New York.
New York.
In Greenwich Village, as a matter of fact.
Now, I only am using that event because there again we had a broad group of American citizens who felt that government was not a particular officer or a particular precinct or even a particular police department, but that the authorities were targeting them and or had a predisposition to treat them in such a manner as to affect them adversely. I mean, I don't think I'm overstating that, right?
Well, if my recollection, I'm not 100% certain of it, but my recollection is that what happened in the Stonewall riot is that the cops had regular practice of beating up gay folks outside a particular bar, and then this was a reaction to these folks basically saying they weren't going to be beaten up anymore.
So say them, and I'm not arguing the point because I certainly wasn't there. My point is that it wasn't their feeling that a particular event was ill-advised or ill-conceived or just plain evil. It was that they felt that there was a pattern.
No, I think they were feeling getting beaten up at the time that happened, and that was their response. Instead of just lying down, they basically fought back against particular cops that were doing this at a particular time at a particular
But it didn't stop with that one particular incident.
That started the gay rights movement. At least many people who look at the history think that was a sort of seminal event. But the difference is, I mean, you started asking me before about the level of conspiracy and the American Indian movement and so forth. I think the fundamental difference, and it gets to your reference to Stonewall too, is whether you see conspiracies taking place in history, which have always taken place as part of how things happen from time to time. Look at the Gulf of Tonkin resolution of the Vietnam War. I mean, there are lots of good examples of that. Or whether you see history itself as a conspiracy, and that's what I write about in the book. That there are folks who make the leap to think that basically all history is a result of conspiracy, to the point where the belief that the current government is not something that could be done better, or you vote people out, or you change the parties, you change the Constitution, but rather there are folks behind the scenes pulling the strings, making things happen in the government itself. What we see as the government is a sham. That is, the fundamental divide.
And you categorically, or not so categorically, say that there aren't behind-the-scene impactful individuals or groups of individuals that do have substantial, if not total control of events that happen in this and other countries?
Oh, I say there are folks around who interest groups and others. I mean, it's how our process, like any other type of government, works. There are different forces and pulls, and different things get compromised and hashed out. But what I have a disagreement with is the idea that there is some sort of overarching system that's running things, and what we see is just set up as a way to sort of shadow government to confuse and confound and to make people think that something is happening when it isn't. I mean, that is a very paranoid view of history that actually comes out of something called the Protocols of the Elders and Sons.
Right. Hold on. We'll be back.
It's time to check out our weather. A service this hour of Dishman's Quality Meats. They're located 1/2 mile east of US 27 on County Road 300 South.
Dishman Quality Meats, 300 South, just a 1/2 mile east on 27, is your source for retail good quality meats at wholesale prices. Right now, you can buy a half beef for just $1.39 a pound, hanging weight, or a half hog for $1.19 per pound, hanging weight. Other great prices include beef cube steak for $2.59 a pound, extra lean pure ground beef with no additives, only $1.29 a pound, and pork shoulder steak, just $1.19 a pound. Why pay high supermarket prices when you can buy the best quality meat for less at Dishman Quality Meats? And we accept food stamps. Just call 584-MEAT and taste the difference.
Weather-wise, look for cloudy skies and not quite as cold tonight. Freezing drizzle is possible well after midnight. A low temperature in the mid-20s with light winds out of the southwest 10 to 15 miles an hour. Cloudy and a chance of freezing rain tomorrow, mostly in the morning. Rain showers likely in the afternoon. We'll see breezy conditions and a high temperature near 40 degrees. Chance of precipitation is at 60%. Right now, cloudy, lightly breezy with 27 degrees. Weather service this hour of Dishman's Quality Meats, 1/2 mile east of US 27 on County Road 300 South.
Coming up Saturday morning, it's Party Line on WZZY. Your chance to let the world know if you have something to buy, sell, trade, or give away. Just give us a call at 317-874-2536 if there's something you're looking for. From 8:30 to 9 Saturday mornings, make a note of it. Give us a call at 317-874-2536 on Party Line, brought to you by D&J's Family Restaurant at 730 West Washington Street in Winchester. That's Party Line on WZZY.
Thanks for listening to the Stan Solomon Show on WZZY. We'd like to know what you think of the show, so do us a favor. Drop us a line to let us know if you like it, hate it, or someplace in between. Our mailing address is Post Office Box 427, Winchester, Indiana, 47394. Or you can fax your response to us at 317-584-2758.